Okay, so welcome to today's webinar. I am your host, Aaron Warden, aka the Juice Doctor, natural health practitioner, solution provider, CEO and founder of Vivo Nutrients, Go Juice Detox, and My Healthcare. We specialize in combining technology, cutting edge technology, and putting your health back into your hands. Our vision is about promoting freedom through well-being. Our values are being honest, caring, empowering, which we seek to do in every aspect of our delivery. We've embarked on these free webinars so we can impart information across to you so that you'll be able to have a lot more knowledge of the factors surrounding your health and how you can actually take charge of your health and take it into your hands, hence the name My Healthcare. So I'm going to start with giving you a quick intro into who we are and what we do. For those who don't know me, for those that are joining the first time, welcome. But it's always good for us to share something that you'll be able to identify with, because a lot of people tend to work with visuals and audio. So I'm going to give you a combination of both. Let me know if you can hear it. Hopefully it comes through fine. You'll be able to hear it okay. But I'll give you a quick intro so you can get a bit of a clearer picture. And then we can crack on. Okay, let's hope this shares okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Thank you very much, appreciate that. And when the sound comes on, let me know if you can hear it, okay. Hear it?
My name is Aaron Warden. I'm a nutritional therapist here at Vivo Nutrients. What we do here is we combine cutting-edge technology along with cleansing, detox, and lifestyle change. The cutting-edge technology is a non-invasive scan we do that has a conversation with your body through your hand. Your body speaks through the software and provides a detailed report that highlights the level of stress on all your organs. So things like your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidney, your brain, your breasts, your brows, your blood, your hormones, everything comes up on the scan, and your body makes recommendations on what it needs to bring it back into balance. Once you've got that information, we can then help you to have a better understanding of what's going on internally, and then we help you to make better decisions regarding improving your health. The scan also helps us to structure a bespoke lifestyle change program where we would incorporate a level of detoxing, cleanses, dietary changes, things that will help you to improve in your interior. And once the body internally is improved, then it has an impact on your body all over. It has an impact on your hair, it impacts on your skin, it impacts on your nails, it impacts on your joints, back pain, joint pains, all those sort of things just tend to just spontaneously heal by themselves.
This technology helps us a lot to educate our clients so they can take control of their health and their diet and their lifestyle.
It was really interesting to see that the scan picked up the imbalances, and I could see very clearly the areas that I need to work on. So I got to have a complete detox, yeah?
I learned a lot about my body today and where I am in terms of my health. A lot of surprises, good feedback. Sort of understand now the way forward, and I'm looking forward to working with Charlotte and the team.
I recommend this to anyone. I've gone around my life feeling that I'm okay, but actually from doing the scan, there's a lot of improvements that I can make.
I eat well, but clearly there are some issues, and the scan helped to reveal those. And I clearly have some work to do. I would recommend everyone do the bioscan at least once a year.
Okay, hopefully that caught everyone's able to get their clear information and picture of who we are and what we do. I'll be sharing a bit more information on, I knew that's going to happen. Okay. All right, done. That's the thing about when you're using technology, it sometimes runs away with you. All right, so I'll be sharing a bit more information a little bit as we go on how you can get in touch if you want to follow up on any of the information that we share today, or you want to get yourself a bioscan if you want to have any kind of further consultation. We'll help you to do that. You've got the contact details. We'll be sharing our contact details as well, and all the ways that you can interact with us via our social media. Okay, so it's Sunday, so we always start our proceedings with a prayer. So, Father, we just thank you for today. We thank you for the opportunity to come into the presence of your people, to be able to empower them with information, knowledge, and the tools they require. Father, we ask that by your Spirit, you'll be able to make us be able to impart information with clarity, and it means that they'll be able to understand and hear and receive exactly what we are trying to share. Father, your word says, while people perish through lack of knowledge, we pray that the people today will be empowered, that the knowledge that they receive today will give them the tools that they require to bring their health to a higher level and have a long and lasting, enjoyable life. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen. Okay, so let's crack on with today's presentation. I'm hoping to get through, hopefully, everything within the hour. We generally end up going about 90 minutes, but I'm going to really try my utmost to get through everything we have to cover today. Let me start with sharing my screen so we can get the powerful information. I'll give a quick recap of what we spoke about last week, so that we can have a better understanding of where today fits in. Okay, so you know about freedom through well-being. Okay, so we spoke about last week, right, get you out of the way. Okay, we spoke last week about gut health and your immunity in your life. That was part one. We introduced the concept of the microbiome being a very, very, very important part and aspect of your health. It's actually the summation of that make up your being and everything about you. So your health, your immune system, your brain, your skin, your organs, they're all made up or the result of your microbiome. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that a little bit later. We spoke about the role of the in your immune system and in your immunity in terms of protection for your body as a whole. The gut is a very integral part and very, very important part of that process and that system. We spoke a little bit about leaky gut, how once your gut becomes compromised or the lining becomes permeated and food starts to leak out of your gut into your blood, how it triggers all manner of inflammation, which will lead to a plethora of conditions, autoimmune diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, IBD, diabetes, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis. All these conditions are all directly linked to leaky gut syndrome. Once your gut, the lining of your gut is permeated and holes start to be formed, then food starts to leak out into your bloodstream where it shouldn't be. The immune system will see things that shouldn't be there, and it will automatically start to attack them. And this is what they'll classify as autoimmune disease. So we spoke briefly about the role of the gut microbiome in these conditions, and we looked at obesity, we looked at type 2 diabetes, we had a little bit of a look at arthritis and many, many other conditions that are directly linked to the state of your gut, but more importantly, your microbiome. Today, we're going to look at how you can repair your gut with a view to reversing some or all of these conditions, all of these diseases, or all of these disorders. We're also going to look at the importance of liver cleansing, the impact of cleansing your liver, what level of health that can bring you to just from dealing with that very important organ, which is responsible for isolating a lot of the toxins from and preventing them from entering into your bloodstream. So these are some of the things we're hoping to get through today. I hope you've got your notepad and your pen, because we're going to try and share a lot of really powerful nuggets. We're going to have some really complex information because we're going to introduce some concepts that you may not have heard before. I know a lot of people are still bewildered about this whole microbiome thing, but we're going to really try and break it down and make it as accessible as we can. We're going to try and take the complex information and turn it into, very simple terms in a way that you can digest it and understand it, so that you can apply the relevant tips and tools and recommendations we're going to give. Okay, so we've covered that. Once again, if you want to get in touch with us, our contact details are here. You can email the email address here, edward.vivonutrients@gmail.com. You've got our website, vivonutrients.com. You have our Instagram page, which is again, Vivo Nutrients. Our YouTube channel, which is really bubbling with a lot of details and data and testimonials and video and information. All of the webinars we've done are all readily available and accessible on our YouTube channel. In fact, you can almost do a course. You can almost do a course of learning. You can almost do a course of study with the level of information that we've shared on the wide varying subjects to do with your health, arthritis, how to deal with arthritis, how to deal with inflammation, how to reverse diabetes, how to reverse blood pressure, how to get rid of back pain, joint pains, weight loss, how to understand how to turn off the genes, how to turn on genes. These are all contained within the information on our YouTube channel. So if you want to really get a really strong hand, try and take advantage of the information that is available that we've put out there to really empower you, so you can take back to your hands. Okay, then lastly, we have our Telegram group where we share a lot of our cutting edge information, new innovations that we come across that research has shown us or revealed to us. We expose them in the healing rooms in our Telegram group, always exclusively and first. So you've got lots of ways to engage with us, lots of ways to interact with us. I'm sorry if I haven't got back to your email. If you have sent an email before, we do our utmost to try and get back to people within 24, sometimes 48 hours, but at a push 72. If you haven't had a response up till now, please don't be vexed. Just keep trying, just keep, bear with us, and we will get round to responding. Okay, so let's jump in. Gut health. We're talking about your gut. Just recapping on the importance of the gut being the life and death, where the place where life and death begins. It's the root of all disease, and it's also the root to all cures. It's the root to all levels of wellness. Everything starts and ends in the gut. It's the single most important part of the body. Yet we are always bewildered as how it's the least known about. Why they don't teach about the importance of the gut, the relationship to the gut and your immune system, the relationship between the gut and your health, the relationship between the gut and your brain. We're bewildered at how they don't teach such information in schools. It's something that we're advocating for greatly. We're really trying to push for them to take it up as a curricular item that children can start to learn about their gut, because it will really take the pressure off the NHS if that's what they really are concerned with doing. Teach people about health so that they can prevent them from getting sick rather than wait till they get sick and try all manner of treatments to cure them. Okay, so let's jump in from where we left off. Okay, so we're talking about the microbiome. We introduced this concept of the microbiome. Now, the microbiome is a very, very important part of our health. It's actually the most important part and the most unheard of or unspoken about combination of genes and cells and microbes that makes up our body. That it's just unbelievable how nobody actually knows about it, or very few people. But us in the functional medicine world, in the natural health world, all we do is study the microbiome. That's all we're interested in, because we know that is the root cause of most, if not all, of human disease. So the human gut microbiome, total population of all the microbes that reside in the intestines. A lot of them are in the intestines, but that's where the most food goes. The makeup for each individual is as unique as your fingerprint. So everyone's microbiome is different. So that's why we have to have a very individualized approach to health, healing, and to well-being as a whole. Individuals with irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut, in most cases, may have an imbalance of bad bacteria relative to good bacteria as an underlying cause of their problem. So your gut flora is really important to keep the balance of good bacteria in relation to bad bacteria to make sure you have homeostasis in your gut. This imbalance is also referred to as another term we mentioned last week, which is dysbiosis. Dysbiosis meaning that disorder of balance within the gut. And they also may have some pathogenic or disease-causing yeast or parasites in the gut. Now, bear in mind that the microbiome is made up of bacteria, it's made up of yeast, it's made up of parasites, it's made up of viruses. We need viruses because they're part of our microbiome. So when they talk about viruses being some alien or foreign body, they're actually not. We've lived with them harmoniously since the time of creation. So viruses make up part of our microbiome, as do yeast, as do parasites, as do candida. The problem arises when we have an overgrowth or an overproduction of any of these microbes. When we have an overgrowth of yeast, that could lead to lots of problems. It leads to fungus problems. When we have an overgrowth, when you have too much sugar, when you have an overgrowth of bacteria, that's when you have an infection. But we always have to have bacteria, we always have to have yeast, we always have to have fungus, but we have to have them in a balanced amount. People will be quite surprised at the level of microbes and bacteria that actually live in our body and actually comprise or compose our body. Our body is made up mainly of microbes. In fact, 100 trillion microbes live in and on us. So that means in our skin, in our hair, in our cells, in our stomach, in every part of our body, we have 100 trillion microbes, to the level that 50% of our cells, 50% of the cells in our body are actually microbes. Just think about that, 50% of our cells. So we're trying to kill off all these microbes. The more we try to kill off microbes is the more we're actually trying to kill ourselves. 99.5% of our genetic material is microbial. But what's more easy to understand, I guess, for you to grasp, is that 21,000 human genes versus 4.4 million microbial genes. So a big percentage of our microbial, the genes in our are actually from microbes. So the majority of our genetics are not just, but they're actually the genes of the microbes that live in our body that control all the functions of our body, including things like metabolism, including things like body weight, including things like our immune system, our moods, and our behavior. This is why you'd see somebody who would eat, you'd think, my goodness, how can they eat so much? They eat everything, but not put on any weight. It's because their microbiota is in a state to yours. If they have the right balance of certain microbes under control in their gut, you would find that they will be able to eat all manner of foods and not put on an ounce of weight. But yours, maybe have the microbiota in a state of dysbiosis, may receive 1/10 of what they eat, but you'd really blow up and put on pounds and pounds and pounds. This is because of the microbiome and the genetics and the DNA that is affected by this microbiome. So let's go back to the beginning so we can kind of get a little bit of understanding, and then we'll kind of really, bring you forward into where we are now and how we can impact our microbiome more positively. So where did it all begin? Where did it all begin and how did it all begin? Microbial colonization begins at birth. It all starts in the gut, right from the day the baby is born. And it's influenced by the type of delivery and the subsequent feeding practices. So your state of your microbes or your microbiome is got a huge amount to do with how you were born and how you were fed as a baby. Babies born vaginally receive a mouthful of probiotics from the mother as they pass through the birth canal. So if your mother had a good bacterial flora in her gut, that will then impact your gut flora in your gut. But if your mother was prone to lots of stomach issues, gut-related issues, bloating, dysbiosis, you would automatically inherit that disposition also. So babies born by C-section, they're more likely to be colonized by skin bacteria, such as Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, which predisposes them to disorders such as eczema, asthma, psoriasis, just because they came out through as a breech birth, so to speak. So scientists are now discovering that babies born by vaginal delivery and subsequently breastfed tend to be healthier than children that are not. So it's key that we get to understand a primary objective for any nursing mums or our next generation is ensuring that these children or these parents are educated or informed on the importance of keeping their gut healthy. Not just eating, not just feeding for the baby, but making sure they have the right microbiome, they have the right state of good and bad bacteria in the gut to ensure that the health and the immune system of their incoming child is optimized to maximum levels. Let's have a quick look at some microbiome facts. Just gonna give it to buttress the point a little bit. There's up to 1,000 bacterial species in our gut. They have 10 times more bacteria than human cells in our body. These bacteria possess 100 times more genetic material than our own human cells, and it's been discovered that up to 40 human genes were actually derived from bacteria. Can you imagine? 40 of our human genes were actually derived from bacteria. So are we more human or are we more bug? Are we more bacteria? Organisms that reside in the gut can be classified as commensal, symbiotic, or pathogenic. So this is the ecology of the bacteria that make up our gut flora. Commensal bacteria are like residents. These are just like the bacteria that live in the house. They confer no benefit and they cause no harm unless there's too many of them, if there's an overgrowth. Symbiotic bacteria, they actually confer health benefits. They actually regulate things like your immune system, your metabolism, your dietary function, your digestion. These symbiotic bacteria are responsible for those. This is where they have things like probiotics. Pathogenic bacteria are microorganisms which may cause damage to the small intestinal lining, or as we term leaky gut, and may have harmful effects on other parts of the body. It's now known that the human microbiome can influence metabolic and immune function, whether promoting health or contributing to a wide range of diseases. It's now become a known scientific fact. They're starting to acknowledge the importance of the microbiome. Up till now, the medical community have never even looked at it as a phenomenon that impacts our health or our well-being, but through natural health and science, they're always pushing for greater levels of understanding of the body. So they're now starting to discover the importance and the impact, the wide-reaching impact of the microbiome. So the more bacterial diversity we have, the better, because our microbial balance and composition is constantly evolving. So the more mixture, the greater the mixture of bacteria we have, the better equipped we are to deal with changing situations. Research has shown if you were born on a farm or exposed to dogs early in life, you're less likely to get allergies later in life. It's actually part of my obsession with getting rid of germs. And especially people in the Black community, we find that if we wrap up, we try and isolate them from the cold, isolate them from germs. This is the best way to protect them. If you remember growing up in school, you've probably seen all the English children running around in winter with just t-shirts. But all the Black children, they're wrapped up like Eskimos, hoods on, scarf around the neck, every manner of covering that they could have. But if you notice, the white children, they never got sick. They never got cold. They never caught a cold. They never caught any kind of level of, time off school because they were sick or because they had cold or because they had a flu. But on the Black children, on the other hand, they were always sniffling and sneezing and always getting colds. The reason for that is they were isolated from being, or they were exposed to the level of bacteria and the level of pathogens that the white children were. This is why we were always the fastest or the quickest to get sick. I remember when I used to be, I was a coach at Fulham Football Club, and I used to see those same white guys, these adults now. The coaches will come to work in their t-shirts, and it could be in the middle of November or a really windy day in September, and they'll be out there in their t-shirts and their tracksuit bottoms, or even in their shorts, even if they're standing still on the pitch. And I'd be there wrapped up with my hoodie, my coat, my jumper, my cardigan. And when our season came, I was still having my colds and everything. I was still sneezing, and I was thinking, right, I'm going to try and do what they do, because there must be something in what they're doing. So I did it for a whole 6 weeks. I was running a program. I think it was one of the programs in South London somewhere, Clapham or Kennington. I had about 100 children from like 7 to 17, and I was running the program. I was the head coach at Fulham. And I said, right, I'm going to wear my normal t-shirt, just wear my light tracksuit top, regardless of the weather. And I found that when I was doing that, I had a much greater level of resistance. I had a greater level of resistance to flu, I had a greater level of resistance to any form of runny nose or anything like that. So it really helped me to understand that when the white people are running around in their shorts and t-shirts, they're actually really building and boosting their immune system, and they're collecting a wider level of bacteria to support the diversity of their microbiome. So derangement in the human microbiome has also been associated with obesity, cancer, and mental health. Your gut microbiome is influenced by the foods we eat and our environment. So not just the foods we eat, but also your environment. So your environment will shape your microbiome, and it will also shape your immune system. Overuse of antibiotics has been classified as a leading cause of unhealthy gut microbiome. I said to you last week, or the last webinar, that you can have one dose of antibiotics, and that one dose could destroy your gut flora and your microbiome for life. Yeah, for life. One dose, one single dose of antibiotics can destroy your microbiome for life, which means from that one dose of antibiotics, you have now left yourself open and exposed to contracting leaky gut, which could lead to all manner of autoimmune diseases, arthritis, IBD, diabetes, just from that one dose of antibiotics. So if you're a person that has multiple doses of antibiotics, you really need to be paying attention to the state of your gut now and looking at what you can do to start to repair that imbalance that has been created by wiping out all those bacteria, because antibiotics just simply means against bacteria. It doesn't distinguish between good bacteria or bad bacteria. It just wipes out bacteria. So you are left with a big hole in your flora, which will have a significant effect on your microbiome. So exercise has also been shown to promote gut bacteria diversity, and maybe another factor explaining the benefits, the beneficial effects of exercise. So exercise is a really key part that people take for granted. Moving around, it really helps to increase the production of healthy bacteria, and it helps to remove stagnant, dead bacteria that would more thrive in a more sedentary type environment or sedentary lifestyle, as in people that have been sitting down for extended periods of time during lockdown. So it's a very, very unhealthy state. That's why, again, you'll see our European counterparts, as soon as the sun's out or the daylight comes, they're out in the park, they're running, they're walking the dog, they're taking power walks, whatever they can to increase movement and to increase exercise, which has, as I said, a significant effect on their microbiome and ultimately their health. Okay, so let's have a look at some foods. Food is a very controversial area, very controversial subject, and I have to address it very sensitively, because I know it's something that's very close to a lot of people's hearts. But we spend a lot of time helping people to realize and recognize that over 90% of their problems that they're facing, or they're presenting when they come for their scans, their consultations, are as a direct relationship, or as a direct result of what they've been eating. 90% of the food in supermarkets today, in fact, didn't even exist 100 years ago. Can you imagine? 90%, over 90% of the foods in our supermarket did not exist. So that means there's so many foods that we're consuming that aren't actually even food. So if we're consuming all these products, we'll call them products, what are we actually taking into our bodies? What are we actually taking in to feed our microbiome? What are we taking in to feed our gut? What are we taking in to feed our immune system? What are we taking in to feed our bodies? They say you are what you eat, right? But again, this is what's been perpetrated to us. This is what's been pushed on us, this whole modern lifestyle, the modern, quick food, fast food lifestyle. And this is what led us into this fast course or highway to all manner of different degenerative problems. So let's have a quick look at skincare versus sick care, or skincare versus healthcare. There have been quite a lot of studies done on this whole situation regarding prevention as opposed to cure, and the relationship between our diets and our levels of health we've been able to attain and, more importantly, maintain. So by analysing the diets, health and microbes of more than 1,000 people, researchers found that a diet rich in nutrient-dense whole foods, supported the growth of beneficial microbes that promoted good health. But eating a diet full of highly processed foods with added sugars, salt, and other additives had the opposite effect, promoting gut microbes that were linked to worsening cardiovascular and metabolic health. Researchers also found that what people ate had a more powerful impact on the makeup of their microbiomes than their genes. Can you imagine? So your mum and your dad have come together to form you with all your characteristics, all your attributes, all your strengths, your weaknesses. But what you've decided to ingest or observe as your diet has had the ability to alter how you are naturally born to be. So you were born to be great, but what you've eaten or what you've been ingesting or observed as your diet over the years has now changed your genetic sequence, and where your genes were set for you to become this great person. You've now taken on a whole nother course, which is going to bring you to a whole nother destination that you didn't originally plan for. All as a result of what you've been eating, what you've been feeding yourself on a regular basis. So it's interesting to find out the researchers found that people who ate a more powerful, ate more, the processed foods had a very negative impact on their genes. They also discovered that a variety of plant and animal foods were linked to a more favorable microbiome. So that's science telling you that your microbiome and your body is designed to eat or observe a plant-based diet. Most of the clients that we have, when they come to us, one of the things we always do, of standard, we do a food scan. We check their body for about 500 foods to see what food intolerances or food allergies they may have developed. And we'll help them to identify those foods first and foremost so they can remove those from their diet, because there's no point in you going to get medicine or take medication for a condition that you're suffering with, where the food that is actually causing it, you're continuously ingesting it, because these are the things that are triggering some of these autoimmune responses. So we have a completely different perspective and approach to health and well-being than your conventional doctor or your GP or your professional, because they're more interested in your symptoms and treating your symptoms or identifying your symptoms so that they can prescribe a level of medicine, or treatment or course of antibiotics or whatever style of treatment plan they want to put together for you. But none of them are going to address the underlying issue, which 90% of the time is your food. So they developed a system on that basis, on that same premise of treating your symptoms as opposed to identifying the cause and then dealing with the root cause and the root issues so that you can have long-term wellness. So as you can see, it said that the little snap on the left says, at the first day of med school, the teacher says, preventative medicine kills, return business. Preventative medicine kills, return business. So therefore, what they're saying is that there's no money in health. There is no money in health. There is only money in sickness. So the more ignorant people are to the causes of their condition, is the more prey they will fall to these powers that be, that want to keep you in that situation and put you on a course of medicine that's never going to change the situation, never going to really improve it, but only manage it or preserve it, or ultimately, which will ultimately make it worse, because it's not allowing the body's natural healing mechanisms to do what it's naturally designed to do. And that's why we call it sick care versus health care. So because we are not taught how to manage our health, and it's not taught in schools, it's not encouraged to have a more preventative approach to health to make sure we can maintain and increase our levels of health, it always leaves us very susceptible and very vulnerable to whatever opportunistic pathogens or diseases. Some of them are just even mental, psychological. They don't even have to be physical. Psychological diseases are just as bad, if not even worse, than physical diseases. So it makes it really easy for us to be deceived and fooled and told whatever they want to be told, and which will cause us to observe or follow whatever course of action they're recommended for us, and they know nothing about us. We are supposed to know about ourselves. We are supposed to want to know about our health, but we know nothing about our health. The Bible says, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So are we going to continue to be the one-eyed, the blind, or the blind, being led by the blind? Two blind men follow one another, both of them will fall down and end up in a ditch. So we can no longer afford to be blind to our health anymore, because we're living in a very serious time where we always say to be sick is actually a crime. Don't be a criminal. So that leads us to the question, how do I repair my microbiome? What do I do? What are the steps? We've identified that the microbiome is the main platform, the main structure within the body that controls and houses all our defenses, all our immune system, all our immune responses. This is the area that's responsible for our health, but also for sickness. So how do we repair the damage that we've sustained or that we've inflicted upon this very, very delicate and intricate system? I mean, is anybody here on the line, just by show of hands, or just put in the chat, I do have a sweet tooth. If you have a sweet tooth, just type in the chat, I do. So I'll do a quick poll to see how many people are actually suffering with a sweet tooth. I won't say suffering or experiencing, who have, let's be honest, have a sweet tooth. Let me go and have a look. Why is it not showing it? Let's say I do. If you have a sweet tooth, let's say I do. So let's see how many people. Okay, yes, I do. Okay, I do. Oh, I did. Okay. Please feel free to put the question in the chat. Okay, yeah. Okay. Quite a few people have a sweet tooth. Now, I used to have a sweet tooth. I'll come to you in a second, Sharon, before I move on. I used to have a sweet tooth, and having a sweet tooth is almost like a modern way of saying I'm an addict and I can't control my sugar intake. But just so you know, or you're aware, if you have a sweet tooth and an unhealthy addiction to sugar, you have invariably damaged your gut lining and you have left yourself open to leaky gut. So you're probably already experiencing some of the symptoms of leaky gut just from you having a sugar addiction or a sweet tooth, because sugar feeds microbes. It feeds good microbes and bad microbes. But if it's processed sugar, which for people with a sweet tooth generally have, it's going to feed your bad bacteria. It's going to feed your bad microbes. It's going to feed your yeast. It's going to feed your candida. It's going to feed your fungus. It's going to feed your parasites. It's going to feed all the organisms in the body that will be responsible for causing inflammation, then damaging your gut, then leaking out into blood, which will then lead to a whole range of autoimmune conditions. So just a note for you, if you find that you're experiencing any level of disorder, i.e. joint pain, back pain, arthritis, rheumatoid, headaches, migraines, low energy, fatigue, IBS, IBD, just by reducing your sugar intake, you will be amazed at how much healing you'll be able to bring to your body just from recognizing that this addiction is a serious problem. As much as society accepts it and says, yeah, it's okay, we've got a sweet tooth, it's really, really catastrophic for the body. Okay, Sharon, go ahead. You got a question?
Hello?
Yes.
I didn't really have a question. I was trying to say yes to your...
I do. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way, actually. That's a good way, actually. Yes, I can use that as well. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Charmaine.
Oh, I think the same thing for my sister as well.
Is that Charmaine?
Yes.
Okay, no problem at all. If you do have a burning question, feel free to raise your hand. But thank you for that, because we want to really kind of make it a little bit interactive as well.
Okay.
To make sure that the information we're sharing is relevant and being received. Okay, so how do we repair our microbiome? In fact, Sharon, that's not why you're there. Do you experience any of the symptoms that I mentioned earlier for those that are suffering with a sweet tooth?
Yes, I have joint pains
Okay.
in my fingers,
Okay.
but I'm also diabetic.
Okay. Does that figure? Does that kind of make sense?
Sorry?
Does it make sense in terms of what we're saying, in terms of how you'd have kind of started that journey? Probably.
Yes, definitely. I can clearly see the relationship. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And so many people, would not realize. Are you taking medication at the moment? Are you on metformin?
Metformin and insulin.
And insulin as well. When did they start insulin? Recently.
I've been a diabetic since 2001. But let's say 10 years later, because I was on diet control for 10 years. And then after that time, obviously, slowly, I went on medication. And I think for the last 5 years, I've been on insulin.
Okay. Yes, because as it gets worse, they'll start to introduce more and more medication.
But I must say, last year, my reading has gone down and my diabetic nurse is very pleased with me. Yeah.
Good. Very good. What have you done to achieve that?
I try to eat healthily. I do have a sweet tooth, as I declare, but I notice the difference when I test my blood glucose. My HbA1c last reading went down to 48. So I try to eat brown rice and, lots of steamed vegetables and fruits. Yes, mainly those stuff, because I can see the benefit. But since being diabetic, as I said, since 2002, it has been a long journey for me. But I'd like to say I'm in a good place right now.
Very good.
But
Very good.
not quite good with the sense
not quite there yet.
Not to say get rid of all my medication, but I'm in a good place.
So would you like to do that? Would you like to be in a place where you're able to not have to rely on medication to manage your sugar?
Definitely. But having a medical condition like this and trying to deal with it can be hard in the sense that when I was on, diet control, I think maybe because the body was trying to adjust, it was very hard trying to not be hungry all the time. And I found that I stayed home all the time, most of the time, saying no to invite, what have you, or I'll try and eat before I go out. And as soon as I'm at a location, is there food around? They're going to dish out food. I need to eat. So, and food has been my best friend.
Yes.
I'm at a happier place when I'm eating.
Yes.
But the medication has helped to a great extent. But I'll say also that determination to say, right, what can I do? Because the first time I was diagnosed and I came home and I told my sibling, the first thing I said, right, no more sugar in my tea. It was hard. I used to take like 2 spoons of sugar in my tea, like 2 or 3 times a day. But then when I stopped, it was hard. But now if anybody give me a cup of tea and it's got sugar, oh, no, thank you.
Very good.
That
Very
sort
good.
of thing.
And that's what we're going to really help you with today, to really recognize that diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, it's actually a lifestyle condition. It's not a medical condition. But they've taken it on as a medical condition because they can keep giving you that metformin and that insulin year on, year off for like 20 years since you've been diagnosed. And it's really easy to reverse. As you said, once you have the right knowledge and the right tools. We've had so many people that came to us with diabetes of 10 years or 15 years. And within a matter of weeks, their diabetes, their blood sugar was completely controlled, and their diabetes literally utterly and completely reversed. They've gone back to their diabetic nurse or doctor or their clinic, and they've told them, they couldn't believe it. They said, what did you do? How did you do it? Okay, come back in 6 months and we'll test you again. They've gone back in 6 months. They're still normal, single digits, 10, 7, between 5 and 7. And it stayed that way. And that was all within a matter of weeks, as a result of making the right changes in the right areas, the right lifestyle changes, and obviously the microbiome, which we're going to hopefully share with people today, how they can also achieve, and yourself, attain the same level of well-being. So thank you so much for sharing
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Okay, so let's look at how we can repair our microbiome, or what we use functional medicine as a very powerful protocol that you can also use. But we always recommend this protocol to use it with the guidance of a skilled practitioner or somebody who knows or understands the leaky gut situation, and someone who also understands the microbiome and, more importantly, dysbiosis and how to restore dysbiosis. Okay, we have a thing called the 4 R's. It's a protocol, natural health protocol, called the 4 R's. I'm going to get this chat out of the way now. Okay, if you've got any questions, remember to post them in the chat, or if it's really burning, you can just raise your hand and we'll take your question in between each of the sections. So the 4 R's, very powerful system that we use to address the dysbiosis and issues with the microbiome. There are many factors that can lead to disturbance in the gut and the microbiome. The number 1 rule is always identify the underlying root cause of that imbalance and to determine the best route to alleviating those symptoms. Now, Sharon said she had an issue with eating and food, as well as being addicted to sugar, because obviously she's fed her microbiome the bad bacteria inordinate amounts of sugar. She's now caused a state of dysbiosis where the bacteria that thrive on sugar have multiplied out of control, which has now started to trigger parasitic infestation, where parasites have started to latch on to that sugar. So now these parasites, because your microbiome actually controls your immune system, it controls your brain, it controls your neurotransmitters. We did touch a little bit on the gut-brain axis, but these parasites will actually control your neurotransmitters, whereby you feel you're full or you're satiated. You go out somewhere, or you have a meal, or you finish feeding the kids, and they finish having their food, you finish having yours, but they've left some food on their plate. Even though you're full, you'll still say, I want some more. Your mind will say, no, you're not, you still want some. Or it will come late in the evening, you've had a good day, you've had a good bit of food for the day, you've had your 3 meals for the day, you've come to the evening, or you come to bedtime, and you're like, something says, I fancy something sweet. And you make your way to the kitchen, or you make your way to the cupboards, and you're going for the biscuits, or you're going for the cakes, or you're going for the savory. Some people have a sweet tooth, some people have a savory tooth, but it's all the same thing. It's as a result of the microbes in your gut that have had an overgrowth since things like, as I said, parasites, which will start feeding your cravings or fueling your cravings. Then you then have no control over those cravings, but to give in and to give them what they want, which then to a further set of problems and issues that you can not control. Diabetes is just a first step along that journey, because diabetes is not actually caused by sugar, but it's caused by everything else. It's caused by the carbs, it's caused by the rice, it's caused by the yam, it's caused by the potatoes. A high intense eating or ingestion of these type of foods are what cause the glucose levels to rise in the blood, and then it puts a problem on a lot of pressure on the pancreas to secrete the right amount of insulin to bring those sugar levels down. That's what will cause you to be in that diabetic state. It's actually not caused by sugar, but a lot of people are led or misled to believe that diabetes is caused by sugar. No, it's caused by blood sugar, which is not your food sugar. Completely different things. But once you've made your lifestyle changes, as Sharon said earlier, she made lifestyle changes to her diet, not just to her sugar intake, because her sugar intake will still be pretty much the same, although it would have dropped a little bit because she's changed the microbiome, but because she changed some of the carbs she was eating, probably the levels and the portions that she was eating as well, would have had a significant impact on the state of the parasites and their infestation in the gut. So we use the 4 R's as a protocol to really bring these areas back into balance. The 4 R's protocol is functional medicine has been successfully used for many years, and it stands for remove, replace, re-inoculate, and repair. So just in some, remove anything that is making you sick, i.e. you're ingesting on a daily basis. Replace everything that you're deficient in. Let's move this person. Okay, thank you. Yeah, replace anything that you're deficient in, re-inoculate the gut with probiotics and healthy microbes, and then repair the damage to the intestinal lining. And these things can be done very simply once you know what you're doing and you know how to apply this very protocol. Let's whiz through these 4 R's in a little bit more detail. So the first R, to remove. The first is the foods that we eat, in particular the food sensitivities, especially things like wheat, and they can actually be hard to digest, and it could also be quite hard to let go of, because I know people have a very unhealthy attraction with cheese as they do with sugar, but these foods are really difficult for the digestive system to handle, and it causes a lot of problems with the gut, the flora and the gut, the microbiome. But it's always important to identify these foods first and recognize what impact they're having on your gut so that it can be easily and quickly removed to prevent further buildup of the problems. It's possible to test for these foods or these sensitivities via our body MOT health scan, which we do. We always make sure we scan as standard to ensure that we've identified any foods that are stressors or that are causing problems within the gut. Common foods that promote leaky gut include gluten, so we always want to remove any kind of gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, and modified organisms, or GMOs for short. Anti-inflammatory medications such as ibuprofen should also be removed because these have a really negative impact on your liver. And we also try and encourage people where possible to reduce their stress levels, inflammation or leaky gut. So always try to eat when you're in a state that is not heightened by stress. The next R is replace. We then want to replace, consists of adding back and replacing anything that will aid in normal digestion or that might be lacking due to poor digestive health. For example, adequate amounts of hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes will help to break down and extract the nutrients from your food. People underestimate how important digestive enzymes are because as soon as you cook, fry, bake, steam, boil, or grill, you kill all the enzymes in your food. You kill all the enzymes because you put the food through that cooking process, automatically the body doesn't recognize the food. So then the body sees it, sees itself as being attacked, then you get the white blood cell rush. This is why when people have had a big meal, because the immune systems have to deploy so many resources to try and break down this incoming intrusion or intruder, you just feel very tired after a meal. I think in the Caribbean, they call it itis or isipri, or whatever they call it. Whether itis, they call it itis. After you've had a big meal and you just feel tired and you just want to sleep. Food is meant to give you energy, not take energy away. But because you've killed all the enzymes through the cooking process, you've really set your body up for a lot of damage. Yes, it tastes good. Yes, it feels good. But the damage that the body sustains as a result of you fulfilling or satisfying your desire, or giving lead to your taste buds, is really quite catastrophic in terms of the long-term effects it has. Replace any vital nutrients which may become depleted as a result of the leaky gut. These deficiencies can be in turn lead to neurotransmitter imbalances, which can cause mood disorders. For example, vitamin B6 is a cofactor for converting tryptophan to the neurotransmitter serotonin. And serotonin deficiency can lead to anxiety and depression because if you're not got enough serotonin, your brain's not going to shut your body down so you can get ample amounts of sleep. If you're not sleeping enough, then obviously your body's not going to have enough energy, which is going to cause another knock-on negative cycle, which means you'll get up the next day only half charged. Then you're going to want to try and compensate for the lack of energy by eating, and more importantly, or more often than not, you're going to go for something that's quite sweet to give you that quick fix, which then just kicks that whole cycle back into motion again, where you're feeding your bacteria, you're feeding your parasites, which is going to give you more rise to more cravings, and the cycle goes on and on and on. The third R is to re-inoculate. This involves reintroducing good bacteria or probiotics into the gut to establish a balanced flora. We need to make sure we establish or re-establish that normal terrain or that microbiome. It's always important to rebuild the microbiome. The reason why your blood sugar levels are going down, I keep using shower as an example, I hope you don't mind, is because you started to change your diet, you started to change the food, you started to change the level of enzymes your body was receiving, which is, again, has a direct link to the state and the condition of your microbiome. So if foods like kefir, fermented foods, sauerkraut, kombucha tea, kimchi, or miso, these are all very good foods that serve as prebiotics to facilitate the development and growth and repopulation of probiotics or good bacteria. Prebiotics are foods that help to feed and nourish the good bacteria in the same way fertilizers help your garden to grow. This is the third R. Let me go into the fourth R, so I can move on to how we can actually repair the gut. Okay, the fourth R, the last one, is to repair. Now, repair consists of taking specific nutrients which help support and nurture a normal gut lining. For example, you may use some supplements that may include glutamine or deglycerized licorice. Licorice is a very good product to really nourish the stomach. It nourishes the stomach lining. It's good. It's got so many health benefits. It's very good for people with diabetes as well because it really helps to regulate the blood sugar. Zinc is another supplement that you may use because zinc is really important for repairing any damage to the stomach lining. Quercetin, CoQ10. There's so many supplements that we would introduce depending on what the state of your vitamin profile is prior to the start or prior to engaging upon this journey of repair. So we always start with identifying where your deficiencies are. We look at what vitamins you're lacking, what minerals you're lacking, what amino acids you're lacking or deficient in, so we can then incorporate those as part of your 4R program or process to bring your body back into homeostasis and ideally into balance. And as a result of this, all these conditions, these autoimmune conditions, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammation, based problems, IBD, IBS, they just tend to disappear. They just spontaneously disappear without a trace. You'll be surprised at how did these conditions heal up? Like I said, all you did was change your diet, change your habits, start to introduce some right foods, start to remove some of the wrong foods, and you started to notice that the body started to respond very positively. And this is how important it is to have the right levels of information so you can really impact this process a lot more positively and in this time more aggressively, because we really need to be aggressive about our health. We really need to be proactive about our health as opposed to reactive, because this is not a time where we can afford to take chances, because there's a lot of things that are being released into the atmosphere that are not good for our health. You've seen the stuff that's coming out from the sky. You've seen the things flying around in the clouds. You've seen the stuff that's landing on your cars. I'm sure you've seen the houses or the roads or whatever metals you have outside your house. You see this material accumulating on your bonnet or on your roof. And I'm sure you must be asking, where is this coming from and what is it doing on my car? So if it's on your vehicle, what is indeed arriving and accumulating in your lungs and the rest of your body. So it's really important that we pay attention to our health, especially during this time now where it is such a high commodity. Okay, so we've looked at how we can repair the microbiome and the sort of things we can do and the process that we would use to bring the microbiome back into balance. Now we're going to quickly look at how we can actually repair our gut, because the microbiome is heavily centered within the gut, but the microbiome affects the whole body. The microbiome is actually the whole body. It's your skin, it's your gut, it's your organs, it's your tissues, it's your hair. You have parts of the microbiome everywhere. But the part of the body that fuels and determines the condition and the quality of your microbiome is actually your gut. So if you have a healthy gut, you will have a healthy microbiome because you feed your microbiome through or via your gut. So this leads us to the next question of how do I repair my gut? How do you repair the gut? Well, the first thing you look at is diet. Let's look at what we eat. Diet is key. Diet is key. How do you repair the gut? You look at what you're putting in there. Some of these things are, we call them straightforward, but it's not as easy when we have things like addictions, when we have things like sweet tooth or sweet teeth, when we have a strong, not even hatred, a dislike of drinking water. A lot of people don't like drinking water, not because they don't like drinking water. It's understandable that because the water itself, the quality of the water itself, your body's actually rejecting the water because the cells are readily receiving the water because of all the impurities. So it's understandable that people don't like water because their body is actually rejecting the water because of the taste, because of the impurities. And if you don't have a filter for your water, guess what? Your body becomes that filter. So these are sort of things that contribute to us having these unhealthy guts and unhealthy microbiomes and unhealthy body environments as a whole. So the diet is made up of your water as well. It's made up of your food. It's made up of the types of foods and the combinations of foods. So the first I want to really quickly share with you today is for you to recognize the importance of the different colors, having a much more wider variety of foods. If you've got a camera, you've got a phone, take a picture of this screen because it's one of the most important screens you're going to have throughout this whole series. It's really going to help you to recognize that when you go to the store, try to incorporate a wider variety. Try to go to different aisles than the ones you normally go to. Don't always buy the same thing. Don't always go to the same aisle, buy the same food, cook the same meal, because your body's only going to get a very limited amount of enzymes from those types of foods. If you want to get a wider variety of enzymes, a wider variety of prebiotics that can feed your good bacteria, you need to have a wider variety of foods. You need to have a wider variety of colors. So we're going to really keep it simple today by just helping you to identify and look at some of these colors and the impact they have on your microbiome and, more importantly, your health as a result of what you put in your gut. So very quickly, we'll start with white. White really helps to strengthen the immune system. You've got your cauliflower, you've got your garlic. I'm sure you know how powerful garlic is. Garlic is an amazing product because of the gallic acid, and there's some really powerful compounds that are in there that really stimulate the immune cells, the T cells in the blood. So white is really powerful for the immune system. Red, all foods that are red, and this is just food colors, like the colors of these foods, and colors in your food is the better the state of your diet will be. Red to improve your heart and your blood health. These are all red watermelon, cherries, fruit, tomatoes. Any red foods are very good for improving your heart and your blood. Greens are very powerful for purification and detoxification. Yellow help to fortify the skin. They're good for elasticity. I always wondered with yellow, because yellow has so many powerful things in there. You've got pineapple, lemons. We use lemons, extensively because lemons have such a profound effect on cleansing the blood and enabling you to have a much better flow of blood to your skin. So your skin will really benefit from getting the lemons because of the citric acid in there, the vitamin C, the limonene. There's so many powerful compounds in lemon. You've got the bromine in pineapple. So many chemical compounds that are really beneficial, and enzymes, digestive enzymes galore in pineapples, etc. Orange helps prevent cancers. They're also very good for your digestive system. Purple helps to increase longevity. Beetroot, if you look at the power of beetroot, beetroot is an amazing, amazing food. If you're lacking iron, if you're low in iron, if you're low in red blood cells, if you're low in white blood cells, ramp up your beetroot intake. Get your beetroot intake up, 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 up. They don't tell you this, but beetroot is laced with iron. It's laced with nitric oxide. I've seen it myself. If you have somebody, I've had people that have been pregnant and they've gone to the hospital, they've said to them, your blood's low, your blood's low. If you don't get your blood up, we're gonna have to give you a transfusion. I said, look, just increase your beetroot, made them guzzle down beetroot juice. They've gone back to the hospital for the next test in the next trimester, and the nurses were shocked. Like, what did you do? How did you get your blood levels up so high? I said, oh, they made me drink beetroot. So beetroot. If you want blood, if you want iron, you want to get rid of your anemia or bring your anemia levels down, get your beetroot up. Simple as that. And this is just from food. They won't tell you this because obviously they want to keep giving you iron supplements and all the other stuff that are going to keep you medicated or self-medicated for a long period of time. What should I be doing to make sure I'm absorbing products? You said it's to do with the gut. Where do I start with? What product? I've been waiting for the answer for a while. Okay, we'll answer that question as well. This is how you start, Ernestine. You start by taking information that we're saying here. Everything you need is here. Everything you need is in this webinar today and the webinar we did last week. So start with looking at the colors of these foods. These foods are really, really important to start rebuilding your microbiome and start rebuilding your gut. Okay, then I'm going to quickly give you 10 scientifically proven ways to support and improve your gut. Now, this is not just me saying it, this is the whole scientific community that are backing this and really helping to put this information out to let people be aware of what they need to do and how they can do it. Okay, can you overdose with too much acid in your body by eating too many lemons? That's a big myth. A lot of people have this myth about lemons. Lemons are acidic only when they're outside the body. As soon as you put the lemons into your mouth, as soon as it touches your tongue, the body flips it, it becomes alkaline. If you want to make your body alkaline, drink lemons. We get people to do between 4 and 6 a day. 4 lemons and 2 limes every day in a litre of water as part of the lemon detox, and they come back with the most amazing skin. Blemishes start to disappear. The pH in their blood really goes up into the green because they've got the lemons. They've got high levels of lemons going in every day. Don't be fooled by the whole myth about lemons and acidity. Lemons are only acidic when they're outside the body. As soon as they go into the body, they become alkaline. But more importantly, you need lemons, you need acid. You need acid in your body, because the more acid you have, is the better the quality of your digestive system will be. The reason why people have a lot of acid reflux is because they don't have enough acid in their stomach, because the food has gone down into the digestive system and it's looking for the acid to start breaking it down, to start absorbing and extracting the nutrients. But if there's not enough acid in the stomach, this is where the food will start to come back up, and this is where it'll start to get indigestion, because the food has not been digested. Alrighty, so look at things like probiotics and fermented foods, prebiotic fiber, eat less sugar, reduce stress, avoid taking antibiotics, exercise more, sleep on time, avoid disinfectants, quit smoking, follow a vegetarian diet. So these are some of the things you can do to rebuild your gut and to get your gut back into order. I'll quickly just go through a little bit more detail, just so you can have a deeper understanding. Take probiotics and fermented foods, that's number 1. Look at these fermented foods. Things like asparagus are very good, just to kind of give you some examples. Because probiotics, as we said, they feed on non-digestible carbohydrates called prebiotics. This process encourages beneficial bacteria to multiply in the gut. Research has shown that prebiotics may help probiotics become more tolerant to certain environmental conditions, including pH and temperature changes. The gut is a very volatile place, it's very acidic, and it really, it's a really rough area. So most diseases and pathogens are flushed into the gut, because that's where the most acid is and the most immune cells are. So a lot of things get destroyed if they haven't got the resilience to stand up to that very acidic and toxic environment. So prebiotics are very good. You've got lots of examples here. Take a picture of the screen. As I said, I'm not going to go through all of them in detail just because of time, but you've got things like asparagus, you've got bananas, you've got chicory, you've got garlic, you've got artichokes, you've got onions, whole grains. These are all very healthy foods that really help. Oops. Oh, what have I done here now? Okay, I've pressed the button by mistake. Yeah, but these are the type of foods that really help to bring your gut back into order and back into balance. Okay, I'm gonna quickly find my screen that I was sharing. I don't know where it's just disappeared to. Right, they all seem to have gone now. Let's see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find you. Come back, screen, come back. In the meantime, if anybody's got any questions, feel free, and I will try my best to answer. Okay, it's still here. Anybody got any question, you can unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, it's not that one. Okay, yeah, this is the one. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, let me know. But yeah, so there's foods that you can use. There's lots of good foods that you can use. Prebiotics are really important. As you said, the probiotics. We looked at sleep. I may have to continue without the presentation if it doesn't allow me to open this. Okay, I'm going to save this one. Okay, I don't want to minimize there. Just bear with me 1 second while I go and find this presentation. I'm going to have to download it again. Remove the files I need. Yeah, so if anybody's got any questions, as I said, we sell probiotics. Yeah, we have probiotics on our website. People are asking for probiotics. People are asking how do. Let me have a look at the chat in the meantime. Okay. Can you recommend a good probiotic? Yes, we always tend to recommend any good probiotic really, but any good liquid one. We do liquid probiotics because we find that a lot of people have problems with digesting food because their small intestine is so damaged that oftentimes they're not absorbing the nutrients from their foods. So we tend to rest the digestive system and allow it to repair. So we feed all the nutrients that they need into the blood via liquid vector. We find it a lot easier for them to get the benefit of these nutrients and probiotics from liquid form because it's a lot easier for the body to assimilate it. If the digestive system is not working adequately, it's always going to be easier to format. Okay, so what I'll do, I will just have to use my other screen. Okay.
Choose doctor. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Paul here speaking.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, hiya, man. Good session as usual, yes?
Thank you very much.
Go back to the sugar situation.
Yeah.
Yes, about either reducing sugar or cutting out sugar altogether out of your diet. Now, my question is this. The brain only needs two things to function, which is oxygen and glucose. So if you cut down sugar or cut out sugar out of your diet, your diet will be imbalanced, and you need to have a balance of almost everything. So how do we tackle that sugar issue? Which sugar I know is a major crisis in the Western world in the 21st century here. So what I'm trying to say at the moment is the brain only needs two things to function, which is oxygen and glucose. And if you're going to cut out, like the lady was saying, I think it was Sharon, was saying she's diabetic just like myself, and I've been diabetic now for since 2021 years. Now, if you cut out sugar completely out of the brain, out of your diet, the body is going to be imbalanced. So how would you tackle that? How would you tackle that?
Okay, it's a very good question, Paul. First and foremost, the brain, yes, it does function and it does consume a lot of sugar, but it's not just any sugar, it's the type of sugar that the brain requires. And we're not giving the brain the type of sugar that it can utilize. When we give the brain refined sugar, it causes the brain to actually go into retrograde, into malfunction, because when the brain it's like when you have a car and you have a car that runs on petrol and you fill that petrol car with diesel. Yes, the car will take the diesel because it has no choice. It's going to take the fuel that you've given it. But if it's not designed to run on that level of fuel, it's going to cause the car to run into problems. It won't run at its optimal levels. And as well as the brain not functioning properly, other parts of the engine that are relying on the hydrocarbons in the petrol for it to burn, to provide the car with the power, they're also not receiving what they need. So that's going to put even more drain on the head gasket or the brain of the car to try and power up these systems. So when you look at the brain is the same sort of scenario where the brain is not receiving fruit sugar or natural sugar, it's receiving unnatural sugar. So we're not saying for people to cut out unnatural sugar. So we're not saying for people to cut out natural sugar, we're saying for you to cut out unnatural sugar. We're saying for you to cut out processed sugar. We're saying for you to cut out refined sugar. We're saying for you to cut out these sugar additives, these sweeteners that are used in these genetically modified foods. These are the foods and the type of sugar that the brain doesn't recognize and cannot utilize. It's not going to get any energy from that type of sugar. It will get a short burst because it has no choice. It will use whatever you give it. But in terms of long-term effectiveness and function of the brain, it's not going to function on sugar that is refined. It needs the right type of sugar. It needs natural sugar. It needs whole food sugar. And a lot of foods are able to be broken down into that sugar in order for it to provide energy. So the brain will actually use the glucose, which is not necessarily the sugar. It's a process as a result of the digestive process that produce that glucose. That's the energy that the brain will feed on. So there are a lot of processes that happen in between, but the most important thing is for us to recognize that the brain requires the right type of sugar. It doesn't just require any type of sugar. So any type of sugar that's not feeding the body, it's not feeding your microbiome, it's also not going to feed your brain. And that's the sort of sugar we're telling people to cut out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to, we really want to, increase, if anything, the right type of sugars, but really reduce the wrong type of sugar. And often people have a sweet tooth, they'll always find a justification for ingesting more sugar, especially the wrong type of sugar. And this is what we're trying to really move people away from by helping them to identify and distinguish between the two, between the right type of sugar and the wrong type of sugar. So thank you so much for asking that question. It's a very, very good question. Okay, I think we're back in business. Alrighty, so we said prebiotics. Then we moved on to number 3. Aptly said, aptly timed, is talking about eating less sugar. Now, eating a lot of sugar or artificial sweeteners may cause gut dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of gut microbes, which will also have an effect and impact negatively on the state, condition, and the function of the brain. A recent study in animals suggested that the standard Western diet, which is high in sugar and fat, negatively affects the gut microbiome, and in turn, this can influence the brain and behavior. Another study showed that the artificial sweeteners aspartame increases the number of some bacteria strains that are linked with metabolic disease. So the brain needs the right type of sugar because it's going to have a negative effect on its ability to metabolize food and to send the signals to the joints and the organs that are responsible for metabolizing and breaking down your food. Metabolic disorder is a group of conditions that increase the risk of diabetes and heart disease. Further research has also indicated that humans' use of artificial sweeteners, those fake sugars, can negatively impact blood glucose levels due to their effects on the gut flora and the bacteria that they produce. This means that artificial sweeteners may increase blood sugar despite not actually being a sugar themselves. So hopefully that answers your question as well, Paul. So if I were you, I'll take a picture of this particular screen or this slide, just so you can, strengthen your understanding of the need for cutting out the wrong type of sugar, not just any sugar, but the wrong type of sugar. Okay, so number 4, stress management, reducing stress. Stress is a really big factor on the state of your gut. If you're worried, you'll start to notice, you start getting things like butterflies, you'll start to feel anxiety building up in your gut. Your stress levels and the levels of stress and the impact it has on your health and well-being are all too easily seen, especially when you start to worry and you start to eat as a result of that worry, and it starts to cause things to spiral, your weight, etc., will spiral out of control. So managing stress is a very important aspect for keeping your gut in the right state. It can disrupt your sleep because you're worrying about stuff. You're making up to get to sleep, which can affect your gut. You can use things like meditation, deep breathing exercises, and progressive muscle relaxation. Exercising regularly also helps to improve your stress management. Sleeping well and eating a healthy diet, which will also reduce your levels of stress. Say no to antibo. Avoid taking antibiotics unnecessarily. Avoid taking antibiotics. If you have a problem like an infection, the first thing we're going to look at is how can I increase my good bacteria to bring that bad bacteria into order, to reduce the production or the speed or the rapidness of reproduction of these bad bacteria. Number 1, stop feeding them sugar, because bacteria feed on sugar like nobody's business. So avoid taking antibiotics. Look at other ways of reducing your infection. Look at things like silver, colloidal silver, nano silver, garlic. Garlic, this is really, really powerful tools, powerful foods, powerful minerals that have a very powerful antibiotic action and function. Antibiotics are damaging to the gut, microbiota, and immunity. Research has shown that even 6 months after their use, the gut still lacks several species of beneficial bacteria. 6 months later, you took 1 dose, and 6 months later, your gut is still trying to recover from that 1 dose you had 6 months prior. According to the CDC, doctors in the US prescribe around 30% of antibiotics unnecessarily. As a result, the CDC will recommend that people discuss antibiotics and alternative options with their doctor before use. So they even start to tell doctors now to start considering other alternatives than the first course of action, which would be antibiotics. Regular exercise. Exercise regularly contributes to good heart health. helps with weight loss and weight management. Research has shown that it may also improve gut health, which may in turn help control obesity. Working out increases species diversity. So remember I said about having a different level or a wider variety of bacteria species to really help to improve your microbiome and your gut flora and indeed your health. A study showed that athletes who ate a different diet to the control group could account for the differences in their microbiome because they had a lot more exercise, so they had a much wider differentiation between their good bacteria and the low levels of bad bacteria. So those that were athletic and doing regular exercise had a much wider and a higher level of good bacteria and a wider diversity of bacteria species than those that were in the control group. Sleep, very important. We had a whole session, we did a whole webinar on sleep. We've shared so many tips on how you can improve your sleep, things that you can do to get more sleep, not just for your health, but just for your immune system, your immune function alone. A 2014 animal study showed that irregular sleep habits and disturbed sleep can have negative outcomes for your gut flora, which may increase the risk of inflammatory conditions. Establish healthy sleep habits by going to bed and getting up at the same time each day. Adults should have at least 7 hours of sleep per night. Scientifically proven. So many studies have been done and conducted and shown that 7 hours is the right amount of hours that you should have on a nightly basis. Another thing that we see on a regular basis when people do their scans is that they have inordinate amounts of chemicals, especially things like ammonia and bleach in their system, in their gut, in their lungs, and it really throws your flora out of sync. Just as antibiotics can disrupt the gut microbiome, so too can disinfectant cleaning products. Another study in 2018 analyzed the gut flora of over 700 infants, babies aged from 3 to 4 months. The researchers found that those who lived in homes where people used disinfectant cleaning products at least once a week were twice as likely to have higher levels of lactobacillus, which is a gut microbe and a type associated with type 2 diabetes and obesity. And this is something that they were discovering was developing in the gut in as young as 3 to 4 months. At age 3, these same infants had a higher body mass index than children without exposure to such high levels of disinfectants. So if they've done a study in children, in babies, where they normally do them in rats, you know that as an adult, if you're exposing yourself every day to cleaning materials, this is going to have a negative effect on your microbiome. It's going to have a very adverse effect on your gut, which is going to have a very negative effect on your weight. Because they've shown that babies at 3 to 4 months exposed to high levels of bleach and cleaning materials had a much higher BMI at 3 years old. So there's a lot of science backing these information and data. Avoid smoking. Smoking affects the gut as well as the health of the heart and the lungs. It also greatly increases the risk of cancer. Another study published over a 16-year period found that smoking alters the intestinal flora by increasing potentially harmful microbes and decreasing the levels of beneficial ones. These effects increase the risk of intestinal and systemic conditions such as inflammatory bowel disease. As we all know, smoking kills, smoking harms our health, but we still choose to do them. Follow a vegetarian diet. This is number 10 of 10. I think we're going to be finishing up soon, so this is good. We're actually reached the last and final furlong. Follow a vegetarian diet. It's so good to follow a vegetarian diet. I mean, I know it's hard, but doesn't that plate look appetizing? Doesn't it look like, you'd enjoy eating all those foods? Look at all those colors. You got orange, you got purple, you got green, you got red, you got white. You got the whole rainbow. This is what your body needs. This is how you repair your gut flora. If you really want to have high levels of health, take a picture of this plate. Look at this and put this on your wall. Put it as something that you're going to aspire to do or aspire to get to. Even if you're not there now or you're not there yet and you're on the way, make this plate, all the colors on this plate, be your target destination. I know you're not going to have your meat. It doesn't have any chicken, doesn't have any oxtail, doesn't have any lamb, doesn't have any curry goat. But look at all the protein in this plate. Who needs meat? I'm sure you've seen, and if you haven't, I urge you, I recommend you, I implore you to watch Game Changers. If you have Netflix, watch Game Changers. If you don't, find it, buy it, rent it, seek it, get it, and watch it. Watch Game Changers. If you think you're missing out on anything by not eating meat, watch Game Changers and you will be shocked and astounded. Your mouth will be on the floor. Okay. So to summarize today, maintaining a healthy gut contributes to a better overall health and immune function. It's really important that we grasp this, that making the appropriate lifestyle and dietary changes can alter the diversity and number of microbes in your gut for the better and for life. Positive changes you can make include taking probiotics, following a fiber-rich vegetarian diet, or pescatarian. I'm pescatarian. I'm on the way to becoming vegetarian. So I'm coming to the end of pescatarian now. So I've experimented with what I want to experiment with fish. But you know what, I can do without fish. I can go fish-free and let's be vegetarian or vegan. But I want to make sure that you're an educated vegan. Because I find a lot of vegans, they just cut out everything and they have so many deficiencies in their diet that it's really quite sad, the amount of vitamins that they're missing. So if you're going to become a vegan, make sure you have lots of information and you really empower yourself with the knowledge of the alternative sources for the foods that you require to give your body what it needs. Positive changes can include taking probiotics, following a fiber-rich vegetarian diet, and avoiding the unnecessary use of antibiotics and disinfectants. Other simple lifestyle changes you can make include getting enough sleep and exercising regularly. We want everyone to be free of diabetes. We want everyone to be free of arthritis. We want everyone to be free of rheumatoid. We want everyone to be free of back pain. And all these things are very, very attainable and very, very easily achievable. We have thousands upon thousands of case upon case of people that had diabetes that no longer have diabetes. People that had rheumatoid arthritis no longer have rheumatoid arthritis. People that had sciatica, back pain, migraines, you name it, carpal tunnels, they had these conditions. They no longer have these conditions. They've gone back to their doctors. The doctors have told them, yeah, you're completely free. You don't need to take whatever you're taking anymore. You don't need to use a physio. Whatever remedial treatments they were giving them, they no longer needed it because they've now been empowered with the tools. They've made the relevant lifestyle changes in the relevant or specific areas, and they're now living a much more renewed and revitalized, enjoyable life. And this is achievable and attainable for everyone on this call today, everyone on this video, everyone watching this video. You can also achieve the same for yourself. It just takes you doing a little bit of research, doing a little bit of study, taking a little bit of time to invest in yourself, and more importantly, investing in your health. But make sure when you do, ensure you seek the advice of a health practitioner before making any drastic changes to your diet, to ensure you're doing what is right for you and your particular situation, because what maybe work for somebody else may not necessarily work for you. So make sure you have the help or the support or the guidance of a skilled practitioner. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's presentation. We didn't get to do liver cleansing once again. I'm so sorry, but we've run out of time. We will conclude that in the next one. Make sure if you want to get in touch, if you want to do a scan, if you want to do a consultation, if you want to have a conversation, use the contact details here. You've got the website, you have the email, you have the Instagram. Be sure to go on YouTube and, feed yourself with knowledge, feed yourself with information, empower yourself with the tools. The information is there. It just depends on how hungry you are. Remember, your health can never exceed your knowledge of saying. Your health can never exceed your knowledge of health. So the more knowledge you have is the greater levels of health you can acquire. Don't forget, when you watch the video, we've given this information for free. It takes a lot of time to put it together, but we want to make sure that we put it in a way that you can assimilate it, and more importantly, that you can share it so that people can be empowered and they can take charge of their health from today. All we ask you to do is when you watch it to please like the video, give it a thumbs up, and also share it. Share it so that other people can benefit from this information just as you have benefited today. Don't keep it to yourself. Share. So all that's left to do now is to thank you once again for taking the time out and giving up your Sunday afternoon to come and sit with us, with me and the team. Thank you for spreading the word. Those who spread the word, I know a lot of people share the information, you share the links, and you really try to get as many people on as you can. I'm really grateful. But now I'm asking you to just share the video, make sure it gets out there to as many people as possible. I'm going to spend about the next 5 minutes just to take any questions. I'm going to quickly have a quick look at the chat and see if...
Yeah, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Paul again. Going back to the antibiotics, yes? Now, one of the most serious experience I've experienced in the NHS many years ago was a 29-year-old young man came into the hospital for a mole operation to remove his mole. And while the operation was going on, superbugs get into his system, and he never came out alive within days. The superbug eat away his flesh like vampire. Now, where it come on to antibiotics, if you have to take antibiotics, remember antibiotics can only be treated for bacterial infection, not virus infection. Now, what can a doctor or healthcare professional do if you're not going to give a patient antibiotic, whether IV antibiotic or anything else? What are you going to do if you get a serious infection, like we are having some superbugs these days in the 21st century? How are you going to treat these superbugs if you're not going to take antibiotics?
Superbugs become superbugs because they have developed a resistance to the conventional treatment. That's how something becomes a superbug. A superbug only earns that title as a result of being given the relevant treatment or relevant antibiotic that has been prescribed for that type of pathogen. Now, if you continue to use the same method to deal with a developing situation, as with all things, all organisms, they develop a resistance. If your mum, when you're growing up, she always used to give you a clap around the ear roll. When you're a child, you'd cry, you'd scream and whatever. As you get older, you're like, Mum's that the best you can do. It doesn't have the same effect on you. And that's the same with how these superbugs work. Once they realize that they can bypass or they can dodge or they can get around these antibiotics and still continue to multiply or reproduce themselves, then it poses a major problem for the medical community, because they only have one means of, or one course of action, antibiotics. Since they've invented penicillin, they haven't really invented anything else. They haven't really used any other form of treatment to deal with these type of bacteria. But when you start to go into nature, where you have a whole plethora of different types of antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral properties, chemicals, and compounds, once you inject these properties, compounds, and chemicals into the body, there is no bacteria alive that can resist the nature from which it was also created. This is why you see things like trees. Trees are plants that will survive every type of condition, adverse, volatile situation condition, but the tree will always survive. Why do trees always survive? Because the immune system of the trees is designed and developed and adapted to withstand any type of pathogenic infection. So when you take these type of bark, I'm just using a tree as an example, because there's many barks that you can get from trees, that when you start to incorporate these barks into your body, whatever bacteria are trying to multiply, when they come across this bark or the compounds in this bark, that bacteria can no longer multiply. And this is when you start looking at things like quinone and the things that they use in hydrochloroquine, the things that are using to fight certain conditions. I'm not going to say the word, but the origins of these treatments, of these plants, of these chemicals, of these drugs, it comes from trees. It comes from tree barks. So I'm just using this one example of how you overcome these so-called superbugs. They're only a superbug because they've only treated them with one course of action. If you then use another course of action or a different type of action, or 3 or 4, you've got different plants, you've got garlic, you can use garlic. Garlic will probably send most of those superbugs, send them packing. You can use garlic and certain barks. You can use neem. You've got andrographis. You have so many plants that are so well-renowned for dealing with bacteria, infections, microbial infections, viral infections. So many plants, and I'll just give you a couple of examples. I've given you neem, I've given you andrographis, I've given you garlic, silver. There's so many alternatives that you can use to deal with infections. So just because they name it a superbug, In nature, it's not super at all. It's just normal. It's ordinary. But that only comes with you acquiring more knowledge. So Paul, it's a very, very good question. And I thank you so much for asking. I hope the answer is enabled you to understand and to embrace the wider set of choices that you have when you start to go back into nature. Remember, we used to use bitters growing up. We always used to have a period of time where we used to cleanse our gut. We used to, in the holidays, your mom will make you come home, they'll give you constitution bitters, they'll give you busy. There's all these different bitters that you use depending on where your culture, where you come from culturally. We don't do those things anymore. So now we rely on antibiotics, and these bugs start to develop in our gut because we're having all this processed food and all these refined sugars, which is feeding these bad bacteria. But there is no known cure or no known antibiotic that they can use to deal with these new bugs, these new bacteria that are forming. However, that's because they're only using one approach. But when you start to go into nature, you start to use food as your medicine, as opposed to chemicals, you'll start to find you have a much more greater level of tools and a much more greater repertoire of resources that you can tap into and draw from to actually bring about the level of order that you're looking for. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Let me have a look in the chat, see if there's any other questions. Very informative. Thanks for educating us. Thank you for your time and bless you. Thank you. I am too interested in, what are you interested in? Let me see. I can't see. I'm interested in eating the right food for lupus. What food can you recommend, please? Lupus is a very interesting condition. Lupus is a name, it comes from the Latin word for wolf. Wolf basically means someone who mimics. It means it mimics different conditions. When they say cry, don't cry wolf, that means you have a condition that it looks like many other different conditions, but it's not attributed to any one particular pathway. So they'll call it lupus, which means they actually don't know what's wrong with you. You just have so much inflammation in your body. The doctors don't know what to do with you. When you have lupus, you are a classic case of all the things that we shared today. You want to really make sure you go back through this video and go back to watch last week's video as well on YouTube on gut health, your passport to healing and all things well. Watch that video, watch today's video again, take some notes, start to incorporate the dietary changes and lifestyle changes that we've mentioned to start restoring your gut, to start restoring your microbiome, start to research on the microbiome, looking at how you can start to reverse leaky gut, because these are the underlying foundations that have contributed to your inflammation reaching the levels where they've defined it as lupus, because it means it's multiple levels of inflammation across multiple pathways, multiple systems, and multiple organs. So yes, you're a classic person, a classic case for using inflammation. There's not only one food you can just use and eat that food and it'll get rid of your lupus. You need to make a very concerted lifestyle change that's quite comprehensive in many ways. We're here to serve you. You can use us as a coach. If you want us to help you, we can help you to guide you through that process. We use our technology to really scan the body and find out what's going on internally, identify the areas that are out of order, and help to bring you to make the right changes to bring those back into balance. You may need to do some level of detoxing. You may need to stop ingesting some of the foods that are contribute to that situation. You probably have to make some harsh lifestyle changes or lifestyle choices in regards to what you eat. So there's a lot that can be done that can help you. So don't be disheartened. There's a lot can be done. Alrighty. Any other questions before we close?
Can I ask one more question, please?
Go ahead. All right, Paul. You're hungry today. Go ahead. One last one.
Yeah, no. I'm working hard today, but it's all right, man. I know you like it. This is a very contentious question I'm asking, and it's a bit unfair on you, but I've got to ask it. I just want to get your opinion. If you don't, if you don't feel like answer it, that's fine, right? Okay. But last question you talk about with antibiotics, where it's like we need to go back to nature, yes, to the plant-based product, which I agree with you. If you go back to nature, the answer to cancers and all these things is in nature, but we don't want to go there. But the question I want to ask, which I said the contagious one, is this one: where doctors are concerned, before you become a doctor, you are taking an hypocritical oath that you'll bring no harm to patients. Now, my question to you, and I say is open, is a lot of these doctors of today, especially what's going on in the pandemic at the moment, they are not really sticking to their oath. And I'm of the confirmed opinion that they're not sticking to their oath, because if they were, they wouldn't be doing some of the things that they're doing and advising people as to what they're advising them. And I'm very, very conscientious and concerned about this.
So what's your question?
So my question is, the doctors, most of the doctors of today, or some of the doctors of today, they can be, you know, they're selling out, in other words. They're not sticking to their oath. To become a professional, you have to take an oath that you'll bring no harm to your patient. You have to educate your patient. You have to give patient information leaflet as to what they're taking in their body and all the things. But a lot of these doctors of today, they are not sticking to their oath, and that is a breach of their professional conduct.
Okay, I'm not here to judge anybody for what they do or what they don't do or how they carry out their trade or their practice. They are practitioners, they are professionals, they have taken the oath. So therefore, under their the oath that they've taken, they have a moral duty, or they have a moral compass that they can use to measure their actions and to either convict them or to free them for whatever they feel they've done or how they've carried out that oath in their practice. They have their own moral compass to determine what constitutes them being in breach or being indeed in alignment with the carrying out the Hippocratic oath. My job is not to judge anybody on what they do. My job is to empower people with information and to pass on the knowledge that people can then make an informed decision for themselves. If you choose to go to a doctor and you see that what the doctor's doing wrong, you have every right, all the pathways that are available for all the channels for you to pursue that grievance, through the relevant channels. But it's not really my position or my place to be making judgments or assertions on whatever grievance you may have with what you see people doing. Okay.
Hi, Edward. Just more or less two questions, really. First of all, thank you very much for your talk today. It's very informative. I was thinking only last week, I want to change my diet. I was bored with what I was cooking daily. And, so your talk today is a godsend. So thank you. Briefly, just tell me about you and your knowledge, where you acquired your skill to be able to share with us this afternoon, other than going on YouTube.
Okay, my skill comes from God. I love people. I was put here to serve and to help people, to bring them into the greater levels of themselves, to increase potential, to help people to achieve greater levels of potential in particular regards in relation to their health. So I have studied nutrition. I'm a nutritional therapist, so my background is health, wellness. I used to teach health and wellness at Suffolk College. I'm also a teacher by profession. So as a nutritional therapist, our role is to help people to understand the pathways that they can use to using food, diet, and nutrition to bring their bodies back into optimal levels of order. So that's where I come from. So everything we do is always based around using food as medicine, and medicine being your food. So we always start with the body, then we go from the body into the diet, and we look at how the diet, and where there's any inconsistency between the diet and the body, will help to repair those, or first identify them, and then to restore them and put them back into balance.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, you're welcome. Alrighty, so thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us and for sharing your time and your questions, etc. Thank you for all those that have asked questions. It's really important and empowering that people do get to ask questions. And if there are any burning things that you feel you need to ask, there's no question that's not an important question, because even if you have asked it, there may have been many other people who may be thinking the same or feeling the same, but not have had the guts maybe to even come and say, yes, this is what I want to ask. So thank you to those who have asked questions.
Hi, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Been very good. Just want to know your insight into how important fibre is in the diet, and I know you've got insoluble fibers and soluble fibers. Just your insight into how important they are and which one's better.
There's a place for both. You definitely need both. You definitely need both types of fiber because you need the fiber because obviously your digestive system relies on the fiber content in your diet in order for it to sweep things through to enable your waste to be formed effectively and efficiently. If you have enough fiber in your diet, it's going to affect the level of peristalsis, the level of bowel movement that you have, or the level of waste excretion that your body's able to carry out. So elimination is a key part of your systems working in order and in balance. If you don't empty the dustbin, so to speak, you're going to have a buildup of bad bacteria and toxins that could lead to further problems further down the line. So the more fiber you have in your diet is the better your body's ability to eliminate waste will be. And more importantly, your bowel muscles, they rely on that fiber to, as I said, to create that peristalsis, to create that bowel motion. Because a lot of people are suffering with dysbiosis, where they haven't got enough bacteria in their gut, they haven't got enough acid to break down their food. So when the body tries to eliminate the undigested food or the remnants of that food, the body struggles to eliminate it efficiently. So if you haven't got the right digestive enzymes or you have a lack of enzymes, just by you having the right amount of fiber, that will at least help to remove those digested foods or undigested foods out of the system a lot more effectively and a lot more efficiently. So fiber is very, very key, both insoluble and soluble. So the more you can get of both of them, the better your bowels and your waste elimination.
So come and do it down now.
Okay, is that you raising your hand?
Yes, I have a question. I would like to know, because I've heard the effectiveness of drinking a glass of lemon water in the morning. Would you recommend it? And how is the best way to take that glass of lemon water?
Lemon water in the morning is always good because it helps to kickstart your metabolism, it helps to kickstart your digestive system because it's putting the right amount of acid into the gut, and it helps the alcohol system as well. Anyhow you take the lemon water in the morning is going to be a good thing. I'd always recommend having at least a litre of water. We generally tend to say at least 4 lemons and 2 limes if you can, because it really has a high level of vitamin C. It gives a lot of healthy compounds that your digestive system can really utilize very effectively. It helps to really break down some of the plaque in your arteries by clearing out some of the waste. The same way you use lemon washing up liquid, use the lemon to break down the grease. When you have a little buildup of grease and fat in your blood, having the lemons in the blood really helps to break down that fat and allow you to have a much clearer flow of blood, which allows more nutrients to be moved around the body a lot more efficiently. So taking lemons in the morning is always a good thing. You can take it with warm water, at least have it at room temperature. Don't have it cold because it takes a lot longer for the body to digest it because it has to heat it up to the right temperature of the body. So have it tepid level or warm or room temperature. But have at least 3 to 4 lemons every day if you can for at least a month. And then you can look at maybe reducing the levels down, but you'll see the difference that it makes in your body, in your gut, and more importantly, in your skin.
Okay. And another question is, I've been hearing a lot of talk about keeping your colon healthy. Mm-hmm. What are the foods you would suggest we eat that would, say, cleanse the colon, for example?
Mm-hmm. If you want to use foods to cleanse your colon, you need to have foods that are rich in what the gentleman said earlier, foods that are very rich in fiber. So fiber-rich foods you can have is the better you'd have at helping to move those metabolites through your system. Fiber is always good. Probiotics also help to really increase your good bacteria, help with the digestive and break the process of breaking down your foods. Because the more better digested your food is the better the body's ability to remove the waste particles from that digestive process. So having some good probiotics is also going to be a good thing. Things like quinoa. Quinoa is a very good grain. It's very rich in fiber. It has a very good support of your peristalsis, of your gut. So when you're eating those type of foods, you'll find that they're able to pass through the system very easily. We also recommend maybe observing a more Mediterranean type diet. They use a lot of olive oils, a lot of olive. These help for foods to slide through your colon as well. So not having too much heavy food, not having food that's too cooked, because the more your food is cooked and the more dry the food is the harder it's going to be for your colon to process them and to eliminate them. So the more oils you have on your food, as in the Mediterranean diet, is the easier your food will be able to slide through. The more salads, the more, rocket, watercress, these sort of greens, the more leafy greens you have in your diet. Again, these all help with the removal of waste from your blood and from your gut.
So in terms of probiotics, would you recommend using a lot of natural yogurt for smoothies?
Yes, they help. They help. They will help.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. Alrighty, so we've gone way over time today now, but like I said, once again, thank you so much for your contribution. Don't forget to like and share the video today. If you want to join our Telegram group, feel free to join Telegram, where we'll share the video of today's session. You'll also be able to get access to all our previous webinars on our Telegram platform, as well as on our YouTube. So all that's left to say is thank you so much once again. Have a wonderful afternoon. And remember, as I always said, to be sick is a crime. Be a criminal. Alrighty. Have a good afternoon. God bless everyone.
Thank you. God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very helpful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. God bless you.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So much, Jenny. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Have a great afternoon.
Michael, log off.